Hi, it's Deacon Matthew Glover with Christ the King Catholic Church, coming to you on Thursday of the 16th week of Ordinary Time, continuing our reflection today through the daily readings on Matthew chapter 10. We have a continuation of the parable of the sower. This little clip from Matthew chapter 10, verses 10 through 17, is really in between the introduction and then the explanation of the parable of the sower. And in between, we have today, which is where the disciples come to Jesus and say, "Why do you speak to these crowds in parables?" And Jesus' response is, because knowledge of the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven has been granted to you, but to them it has not been granted. Elsewhere in the Gospels, Jesus says something kind of similar. He says, in regards to why haven't you told us everything yet? Jesus says, if I were to tell you everything right now, you wouldn't be able to handle it. You couldn't handle it. That line from Jesus always kind of reminds me of that line in the movie A Few Good Men, where Jack Nicholson's up being cross-examined by Tom Cruise, and he says, "You can't handle the truth." And I often think to myself, Jesus and God are kind of saying that to me quite often in my life too. You can't handle the truth. We can't handle the fullness of the reality of God and all that He has done for me and all that He means. Okay? Knowledge of the mysteries, Jesus says, hasn't been granted to all because not everybody can handle that full knowledge yet. These people look but don't see. They hear but don't understand. Kind of reminds me of small children. Small children, they see certain things but don't really understand what's going on. Or those of you with small kids, you tell them certain things to do or things to avoid doing, and they don't always listen. They just don't get it. Until they actually burn their hand on the stove. You can tell them all day long, don't touch the hot stove, but oftentimes they don't understand. They don't see it until it sinks in further. In the Old Testament, we would hear stories about people not being able to see God face to face and without dying. You couldn't see God face to face without just dropping dead. Why is that? It's because seeing God face to face in the fullness of who He is too much for us, would have been too much for us in this limited world. We think that we want to see and hear and understand. But Jesus tells us today, the problem really is we don't really want to be changed or be converted. Isaiah, who Jesus quotes from here in today's gospel, Isaiah says, all these people, they don't really want to see or hear or understand, lest they see with their eyes and hear with their ears and understand with their hearts and be converted, and I heal them. There is a part of us in our lives, there's parts of each of us that we hold on to, and we want to keep away from God. We don't want it to really be converted. We don't want to lose control of that aspect of our lives. There's a part of us that that loss of control scares us. And so we say we want to see and understand fully, but there's a part of us that really kind of does not. And so a question for us to all ponder today is, in what ways is God calling you to give over control of some portion of your life that maybe you haven't really fully given over to God? To be open to be changed, to being open to be converted. Because when we serve God or others, we're giving up control. When we're seeking to be served, we're wanting to retain control. And it's only when we're willing to give up control, to convert and to change, that we'll ever really be able to see and hear and understand, as Jesus talks about in today's gospel. God bless.